It was just another ordinary day in London, the kind where the sun lazily rose over Buckingham Palace, casting a warm glow over the building's stately facade. Tourists swarmed the area, cameras clicking, selfie sticks extended, and everyone eager to capture a piece of history for their social media feeds. The square in front of the palace was alive with chatter, the buzz of excitement almost palpable. At the center of it all stood Guardsman Tyler, motionless, like a living statue. His uniform, crisply ironed to perfection, gleamed in the sunlight, and his tall bearskin hat made him appear even more imposing. He stood unmoving, focused on his duty, and completely detached from the chaos around him. But among the sea of tourists, there was one man who stood out, Jason. He was 28, dressed in a neon green shirt that screamed attention, sunglasses perched on his nose, and a smug grin plastered across his face. Jason's posture was that of a man who thought the world revolved around him. He strolled through the crowd like a rooster in a barnyard, clearly enjoying the attention he was getting. As he approached Tyler, a mischievous glint appeared in his eyes. He wasn't here for the history or the ceremony, he was here to make a spectacle. "Hey, you!" Jason called out, his voice loud and brash. "Why so serious? Smile for once." He waved his hand in front of Tyler's face, as though he were a toy or a statue meant for his amusement. The crowd around him giggled, some of them even encouraging his antics, as if this was the show they had paid to see. Jason beamed with pride, thinking he was the star of the show. What better way to get a laugh than to make a guardsman break? He was convinced that, because he was a tourist, paying money gave him the right to mock the very tradition and duty Tyler embodied. But Tyler stood like a rock, unshaken, unmoving. Not a single muscle flinched, not a nerve betrayed the slightest frustration. He knew his duty was not to entertain, it was to embody honor and discipline. As the crowd continued to laugh, feeding off Jason's performance, Tyler's unyielding silence only made Jason push further, convinced he was winning. Little did Jason know, he was about to cross a line that would shift the entire mood of the square. Jason, now feeling like the center of attention, decided to push the boundaries even further. The crowd's laughter was like fuel to his ego, and he relished in the chaos he had caused. With a smirk plastered across his face, he reached into his bag and pulled out a plastic water bottle. He raised it high, showing it to the crowd, then yelled out, "Catch this, soldier!" Without hesitation, he hurled the bottle toward Tyler, aiming for the soldier's head. The bottle hit Tyler's shoulder, dropping to the ground with a faint thud. The laughter that had filled the air just moments before came to an abrupt halt. The crowd, which had been entertained by Jason's antics, now stood in stunned silence. The playful atmosphere had turned tense, and an uncomfortable stillness settled over the area. Jason's cocky grin faded as he slowly realized that things had gone too far. The amused chuckles from the crowd were replaced by awkward glances and hushed whispers. What had begun as a harmless prank had taken a darker turn, and Jason was starting to grasp the weight of his actions. Tyler remained utterly unfazed, his expression stoic, his posture unyielding. He didn't flinch when the water bottle hit him, nor did he acknowledge the disrespect that had been thrown his way. The tension was palpable, and Jason could feel the eyes of the crowd on him, their judgment growing with each passing second. He had crossed the line, and it was clear that even the people who had laughed along with him were now uncomfortable with the situation. As Jason stood there, the realization hit him like a ton of bricks. His quest for attention had backfired. Instead of being the hero of his own little story, he had become the villain. The crowd's mood had shifted, and their eyes were no longer filled with amusement but with disdain. Tyler's silence, his lack of reaction, made Jason feel smaller than ever. He was no longer in control of the situation. He was just a fool who had miscalculated. Tyler stood still, his face a mask of calm indifference as the water bottle rolled away from his feet. The crowd's hushed silence lingered, and Jason, for the first time, felt the weight of his actions. He had been bold, thinking his antics would make him a star among the crowd, but now he was just a man in the middle of a sea of judgment. Tyler's lack of reaction, his unwavering composure, only made Jason feel more exposed, more vulnerable. The soldier stood as an immovable force, not even acknowledging the insult thrown at him. The stillness in the air was suffocating. Jason's chest tightened as he stared at Tyler, unsure of what to do next. The silence was broken only by the distant sound of traffic, but in that moment, the noise of the city felt miles away. Jason's bravado started to crumble. His initial sense of superiority, fueled by the laughter of the crowd, had evaporated, leaving behind a gnawing feeling of shame. He had gone too far, pushed too hard, and now he was caught in the aftermath. Then, as the tension reached its peak, Tyler moved. With a single step forward, his actions were deliberate, commanding. His voice cut through the quiet, firm and unwavering, "Step back behind the line." It wasn't a request, it was an order. The authority in Tyler's words was undeniable, a clear reminder of the discipline and respect that Jason had so carelessly disregarded. Jason stood frozen for a moment, the harsh reality of the situation sinking in. His heart raced, his earlier cockiness all but gone. Slowly, almost reluctantly, he stepped back, his eyes lowering in shame. The mocking laughter had long since disappeared from the crowd, replaced by quiet disapproval. Jason, who had once been the center of attention, now found himself a mere shadow in the background, the once confident grin gone from his face. He couldn't meet anyone's gaze. His earlier arrogance had been stripped away, leaving nothing but the bitter taste of regret. As Jason took a step back, he realized the true weight of his actions. He had humiliated himself in front of the very people he had tried to impress. And in that moment, Tyler had not only stood his ground, he had reminded everyone of the power of respect and self-control. As Jason took a step back, his face flushed with embarrassment, the once laughing crowd now shifted into an uncomfortable silence. He could feel the weight of their stares on him, each one laced with disapproval. The earlier sense of triumph he'd felt was completely gone, replaced by a gut-wrenching realization that he had gone too far. The crowd, once his audience for his antics, now seemed distant, and Jason's pulse quickened as the gravity of his actions sank in. He had wanted to be the star of the show, but now he was the fool. It was then, in the midst of his humiliation, that a small voice broke through the tension. Jason's head turned toward the sound, and in the midst of the crowd, he saw a young girl, no older than 7, standing in front of him. She was clutching a worn-out teddy bear, her wide eyes full of admiration as she gazed up at Tyler. "Excuse me, soldier," she said shyly, "can I take a picture with you?" Her innocence, her simple request, completely diffused the tension in the air. The crowd, still on edge moments ago, softened as they watched the interaction unfold. Tyler, ever composed, gave a small, calm nod. Despite the disrespect he had endured just moments before, he didn't hesitate. He crouched down to her level, his face still calm, and offered a reassuring smile. The crowd, who had been tense and uncomfortable, now began to relax. The atmosphere shifted, the feeling of discomfort slowly melting away, replaced by a sense of respect and appreciation for the soldier's unwavering dignity. Jason, standing to the side, watched as Tyler posed for the picture, the young girl's joy evident in the way her eyes sparkled. The applause began, tentative at first, but soon growing stronger. It was not for Jason, but for Tyler, who had remained composed, respectful, and kind throughout the ordeal. Jason's heart sank further as he realized that, in his attempt to gain attention, he had only exposed his own lack of character. While he had sought to entertain, it was Tyler who had earned the respect of the crowd. The applause grew louder, and Jason's face turned a deeper shade of red. He had failed, and in doing so, he had learned a painful lesson. The true measure of a person wasn't in making a spectacle, it was in how they carried themselves, in their integrity and self-control. And at that moment, Tyler was the true hero of the story.